May 25th, 2026. Now, here's how the story goes. And this is coming up right now again. So, there was a scientist, okay? Now, this scientist may or may not have been a scientist before this specific event, but he's a scientist after it, definitely. So, this scientist individual found a like a fetus, if you will, a unborn being. Okay, it wasn't fully developed, right? Now, what this scientist did was they took this fetus-like thing and mothered it. You know, heat lamp, whatever it took to survive. Now, this scientist didn't necessarily know what was going to happen, or didn't even know what to expect, right, in doing this. But by doing what he did, this fetus, if you will, actually survived. And not did it just survive, but it grew into a being that had life, right? Well, come to find out over time, this wasn't just it definitely wasn't like the scientist, and it wasn't like any other being that scientists had ever known before. This new member of his one-person family was definitely out of the ordinary to what he was used to. Now, this scientist, was just a normal schmojo type of guy, and wasn't too wealthy. So he had this idea, well, because of the of his creation, his experiment, if you will, right? He said, man, this can make a lot of money. I could actually live and be able to not have to struggle and worry about the basic necessities. And so he had this idea, right? Now, somewhere along the line, there was a real greedy, rich man, okay? Something like the Piper, if you will. And this individual heard about what the scientist, was doing, because the scientist started talking about it, and then he put it into he started advertising it, right? Letting the people of the towns know, like, hey, look, I'm about to have a show, and it's nothing you've never seen before. You should come check it out. The first time, he charged them bare minimum, the lowest of the low, what our penny would have been today, right? It's what he charged the people of the town to come watch this bizarre show, this event. So this Piper guy, right, or Popper guy, he hears about this, and then he's like, man, he already has his mind set. He wants whatever he has. He hasn't even seen it yet. He doesn't even know. All he knows is that this is new, and of course, not too many new things come around in places like this, and especially at times like that. So could you imagine the greed of people who inherited greed, or who possessed greed, right? It was extremely greedy. So this show happens, and this show was how the carnival was started, or circus, if you will. The thing about this particular show or event that the scientist announced and decided to show to the rest of the people that nobody knew but the scientists, and of course, his experiment, was that out of all the shows in the circus or the carnival, right? This is the carnival. It was a one-person show, two-person show, if you will, but who were the one who was doing the acts, right? Which was the entertainers. That is at every single tent, right? Because each tent has a different show, a different attraction. And then of course you have the showman, the guy who step right up, you know what I'm saying, which was the scientist, okay? So it was really a one-person show, or one-man show, because his experiment, this creature that he mothered back to, or mothered to life, right? Gave life to. That was one of his unordinary traits or gifts or things that made him unordinary, as far as the scientists could see, was that he was able to act out and play all of those shows and different attractions. So could you imagine now, you have a tent that has they're able, there's these sisters, and they're able to tie their bodies into knots or whatever. They're real flexible. And then you have the bearded lady, of course we see that everywhere. And then you have this there's just different ones, right? This experiment of his was able to act out and look different and do different tricks without any of the audience knowing that it was just that person, right? Well, this greedy motherfucker, right, comes to the show, and he's like, how in the fuck is he doing this? How is he doing this? Because they didn't see anyone else that would make up that show. And when asked about it, he said that he couldn't tell. A magician never gives out his and so they left it at that, right? But this guy wanted more, of course. He wanted more, and he needed more. So he began to watch the scientists and to stalk, really. And what he found out was that was a one man show. And he's like, I cannot believe it. How? He couldn't believe it, but he couldn't deny it because he's seen it with his own eyes. So what he did was he conjured up a deal, and he broke through and confronted the scientist. Said, you know what? I know what you've been doing. I know how you made that show, and I want it. And the scientist was like, well, what do you mean? And he tried to deny it, and the guy, gave him whatever that he's seen, blah blah blah. So the scientist was an honest man, so to speak, and he was just like, look, all right, man. Yeah, that's what this is, but like, it's not what you think, you know what I'm saying? And he tried to explain to him. He's like, I don't care. Of course, the person didn't understand or give a fuck, because all he's looking at is what he can gain as far as wealth goes, right? So he threatens him. He threatens to expose to the towns. He threatened. He just like. And of course, that could have been, what was going to be the worst thing worse? But at that point, it was like he started getting used to the money from the shows, and he was, making a life out of it, and he didn't want to lose that, which he should have never done. But still, he said, what do you want? So they made a deal. Everything that the scientist made off of what his experiment, which is this one man show, right? Every dollar, everything, he gave this person a percentage of that income. Now I don't know exactly how much it was, but now this became something very big. Because then you had the traveling, you had circuses, you had carnivals, traveling showmen, like entertainment was huge when entertainment came out. Imagine how, if you can imagine, right, how big entertainment is right now, right? Of course, I mean, of course you don't need to imagine that, but you can look at that. And look at how we entertain ourselves today. And look at how many different options we have of entertainment to keep ourselves entertained and distracted. Okay? We look to entertainment every single day, multiple times a day, with multiple different options and choices. So could you imagine that when entertainment was first coming out and it was a thing, this hit hard. This was a big deal. This was like those tea parties or whatever that like only the elites are invited to, because you know, but it was like it was the elite. It was people who had money. So yeah, it was only certain people who showed up because there were only certain people could afford that type of entertainment. And what happened was, he was tricked. The scientist was tricked. He didn't realize how how big he was gonna get, you know, how famous this was gonna be, how well known. Two, he didn't realize, you know, how powerful this other person was, this Piper Popper guy, because of all the money. He never had money like that, so he didn't realize, you know, how money could make you so powerful, and how, you know, he made a deal without actually knowing what the details and having an awareness of what he made the deal on. And if he would have known, he would have never made that deal. If he would have known what he knows now, he would have never made that deal back then. That's how it is, right? So when it all came down to it, he had nothing to show for everything. You know, some people might think that, you know, that was his karma, because, you know, that he put this, you know, his experiment, his creature, his, you know, this species, whatever this was that he mothered to life, you know, that he put that you know, that it didn't have rights, and you know, it should have had more rights, and it should have, you know, it could have been a lot of different things, right? There's a lot of different arguments that this could have, on why it was okay and why it wasn't okay. But when it comes all down to it, okay, at the very end, is the same energies, that same deal, that same contract is still going on here today. Because guess what? Those types of energies, they don't learn their lessons in life. So guess what? They don't move forward. They stay stuck. And where are they stuck at? Here. So they're replaying they're replaying the same games, the same lives as they knew it, because they're thrown back into the game. So they don't know how else to play the game or life. Obviously, otherwise they wouldn't be stuck here, because if they would have learned it, and then they would have been able to move on. But they didn't learn it, so they're stuck here playing the same fucking game, the same fucking deals, and the same shit, as if they're fucking movie actors and actresses just stuck in TV land playing the same show over and over and over again, because that's all they know, you know? Like, it's like fucking, it's sad. Now, what brings this up? I'll say that in the next video. I gotta go.